Hi, I'm nervous, and I have a very limited amount of time to film today's video, so I'm just gonna get right into things. I'm sure by now you've heard all your favorite FNAF tubers gush over all of the exciting news coming down the pipeline for the 10-year anniversary celebration of Five Nights at Freddy's. And I'm here to, well, do the same thing. But I really want to focus not only on FNAF, but how Mascot horror as a whole has had an absolutely fantastic year. We've seen brand new games with lots of promise, new chapters of existing games, as well as many announcements for upcoming games, demos, DLC, so on and so forth. I just want to take several moments today to appreciate what we've seen so far at the halfway mark of 2024 and get excited for everything that is to come. I likely will not be covering everything that has happened so far in 2024, but I will try to hit the highlights and hopefully I don't leave out anything big. That being said, if I do, you can let me know in the comments below, as well as like, subscribe, and leave any other thoughts that you have while watching the video. And I do just want to say that this is going to be more of a podcast style video, so if you're more interested in like my structured videos, I'm sorry that isn't what's happening this week, but I just genuinely didn't have time. So that's kind of the way that it is. SMILE every day! To start us off, January came in with a bang. We got the new chapter of Poppy Playtime, as well as two new games. One that was teased with a demo in 2023, but the actual official game was released in 2024, Shipwrecked 64, as well as a game that I think took the whole idea of mascot horror in a really fun direction, in a new direction, one that I haven't seen very much, with KinitoPET. I'm not going to be going exactly in chronological order, though I am trying to start at the beginning of the year and move our way down. But first, I just want to talk about Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, because it was a really big change in direction in a way for the franchise. We know that leading up to Chapter 3, Mob Entertainment was sort of teasing the idea that they were going to be getting darker with this third chapter, and I think there were a number of us who were a bit skeptical about that, and some of us who were, really excited, and some who maybe didn't want the franchise to go to that direction because it seemed so specifically geared towards children. Either way, Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 was released, we were all introduced to the Smiling Friends and Catnap, and we were enthralled. It seemed like a big step up in production quality for Mob Entertainment. I also think that it was a really good reputation boost for Mob Entertainment after Project Playtime had started to receive a level of criticism. I do think that Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 was their focus, and so Project Playtime kind of went on the back burner. That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying that as a fact, but that was just sort of the feeling I got. Ultimately, I think Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 was a really big win for Mob Entertainment and for the fandom who was kind of not sure exactly when we were going to get this game. And of course, I'm always a person that says, if you need to delay your game because you are trying to make it better, I would much rather you do that than release the product as is. I am grateful that they didn't do that, that they really did, wait until it was a product they were proud of, and I think that it showed in the final product, certainly. We got introduced to new characters like Catnap and Ollie, our phone guy, if you will, our phone kid. I really enjoyed it. I really honestly didn't follow Poppy Playtime very much other than watching theory videos on it until Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 came out. I think there was something about the atmosphere of Chapter 3 that really caught my attention, and hopefully that of a lot of others. I'm really excited to see what they do next. That's all I really have to say about Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, so let me switch gears into Shipwrecked 64. I think that this game came out at just the right time, right at the beginning of the year, and because I don't know if everybody who knows about this game was really following it before the game came out, but it had a very similar energy to Catastrophe Crow. If you don't know about that, I would just look up a video on that because I don't have time to go into it today, but it's very similar to Catastrophe Crow. I'm sure I have visuals on the screen right now to aid you to see the sort of similarities between the two, but Catastrophe Crow was not uploaded as a video game, it was uploaded as a series of videos where you could not actually play the game, you were watching basically a let's play of sorts, right? And so you were kind of experiencing the game without actually getting the physical game yourself. Shipwrecked 64 started out very similarly, where we had videos of the game footage, right? And there were elements of the ARG already available to us, but then in January they dropped the actual Shipwrecked 64 game, and I was really excited about that because I had watched Super Horror Bros sort of recap of what was going on with Shipwrecked 64, and I was really enthralled. I think I watched that video like 5 or 10 times before the game itself came out. When it came out and other people started playing it, and I got to really dive deeper into it because there's no way I was solving those puzzles on my own. I am not going to pretend that I could have done it on my own. They're very similar to Catastrophe Crow. And I don't know which one's borrowed from what, but now we have a Catastrophe Crow game too, but we talk about that later. I don't really have anything smart to say about Shipwrecked. I just think it does such a good job of building up the eerie nature of itself, but I really do appreciate that it's, you know, nostalgic for the Nintendo 64 era of games. I really like the atmosphere that the game creates, and I also think that it's unique in the sense that it's not kid-based, you know, it's not trying to capture kids. There's no child life ender on the loose. So I like that it's more just about like the game developers and the company that is publishing the game and their dispute over what is and isn't marketable, and also just in general sort of it's a very believable concept that, you know, a company starts off really excited about a game and then development causes so many issues that people lose faith in the project and what that can do to somebody who has sunk so much time and energy into something that they are passionate about. This happens a lot with movies too. Movies get all the way through where they've been filmed, edited, etc., and then they just sit on a shelf and are never released to the public. And it's devastating for the people who, you know, put their time and energy into the project. I think that it's a really nice, believable sort of direction for something like an indie horror, Mascot horror game to go that we don't normally see. And it also lends itself so well to all of the hidden secrets and things like that that are inside the game. Like, it's not just like, oh, someone got depressed and they started developing a game. They got depressed and taken over by what they were doing, like, within developing the game. Like, it actually all has a reason to be there that feels really solid and believable. So that's all about Shipwrecked, but I do quickly also want to talk about KinitoPET. I think that this is such a creative direction to take Mascot horror, to take this sort of indie horror genre that is sort of also an ARG as well. The built-in ARG elements of something that is getting into your computer, I really love. I also really love when games take advantage of the amount of information they can like have from your computer. Obviously, for streamers, that you do turn that off. I do feel like that hurts the intention of the game, if so to speak. You lose some of that horror with that feature turned off. I know we all kind of know that it's just pulling stuff that's already in our computer, but it having access to your like GPS information and your web camera and stuff like that's super freaky. I'm not saying KinitoPET is as big as things like Poppy Playtime or Freddy, you know, obviously that's not where we're at, but I do think that this little like axolotl made a name for himself, and the story within is quite haunting. It does touch on AI and learning programs that over time seem to develop more and more sentience or human-like conversation, and the idea of it all. I don't want to like spoil it if you haven't seen it. If you want to watch like a summary on it, there's summaries on it. But I think KinitoPET tackles that AI aspect in such a creative way. Like, it's probably one of the most creative ways that I've ever seen the problem, the question of AI being discussed within a horror game. It's very easy to say AI bad. It's very easy to say like AI gone rogue, but what KinitoPET does, I think, is very unique in the way that it tackles its horror elements. If this is your first time hearing about it, please go check it out. I think very weirdly, out of Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, Shipwrecked, and KinitoPET, I like KinitoPET's direction and story the most out of the three, which is why I saved it for last. That is not to discount either of the other 2 January games that we got. I'm just putting my things out there, and I would love for more KinitoPET, personally. That's how I feel about it. Well, let's move on to February. As far as what is in my circle or what interests me in February, I didn't have as much, and I don't even know if one or both of these things qualify as mascot horror, but I am still going to mention them because they do show up a lot in the circles that I explore on the internet. And the first one I'm going to talk about is That's Not My Neighbor by Nacho Sama. I feel like that game took the internet by storm for a little bit there. Unfortunately, it's a bit light on gameplay, but there are some ARG elements, there are some puzzles to solve outside of the game that give you more insight into the world. And the reason that I call it mascot horror is because from that game sparked the internet's sort of fixation with Milkman. With that specific character, he kind of became the face and the staple of it, despite being kind of one of the more normal looking people. I thought that was really interesting. That's why I wanted to mention it. It's basically Papers, Please, but with like cryptids and stuff like that, doppelgangers, things like that. And I love Papers, Please. I don't know if that counts as mascot horror, but I just wanted to put it out there. But the second thing I did want to quickly talk about was Walten Files. Chapter 4 was also released in February, and while that is not traditional mascot horror like game, Bon and Bon's Burgers and Shaw the Sheep and everybody else, you know, those are all very clearly, and I think even confirmed, to be a riff or a reimagining of FNAF in a world where Freddy Fazbear's didn't exist, Bon's Burgers existed instead. So there's a lot of parallels in the themes that are explored and things like that, but it's still a very different story. And we got another chapter in February that followed Felix a lot and his sort of aftermath of there was a drunk driving incident and some kids croaked, you know what I'm saying? I'm speaking about it like this because I don't want to like flag anything on the video like I'm talking about, because it's not real stuff. You know, we're talking about games and we're talking about analog horror series and things like that. I didn't really know if you would still call Walten Files an analog horror series because there is like a found footage element to it, but there's so much animation that it, to me, almost feels like an animated series. More like The Amazing Digital Circus, if you will. Obviously not like that in the sense, but like it's been feeling more cinematic lately. Let me just put it like that. It's been feeling more like the shots and things are being composed not as found footage, right? It seems like it's not, oh, like somebody's holding a video camera recording or something like that. That was more in the beginning, but especially in Walten Files 4, it feels a lot more cinematic than it has before. And I really do like it. It's a very interesting sort of adjustment. I liked everything that Walten Files 4 put forth. It seems like we're going to be getting more of it. And the reason that was so exciting and the reason that I wanted to talk about it is because there was a long time where we didn't have any updates, or we weren't sure when or if there was going to be more Walten Files because it had taken such a long hiatus. So knowing that it was back, and now they are still uploading regularly on that channel. If you go check, there are new videos. It's there. There's content. Moving on, there's not really a whole lot in March, just kind of the way that it is. I didn't find anything. If there's something you remember from March, put it in the comments below. I'd love to know about it. What was big in April? We had 2 really big things in April. We had 2 series, one that I really, really love, one that I'm really not so interested in, but I could be convinced, you know. First of all, I just want to talk about the Welcome Home Christmas update. This was a delayed update. Clown had updated, being like, look, there was gonna be a Christmas update. Say lovey, it's not happening. And me and maybe other people just kind of assumed like, okay, there's just not gonna be a Christmas update, but in April, they dropped the Christmas update anyway and wove in that missing time almost to the point where if they had just not said anything, or if we hadn't thought there was going to be a Christmas update and then they put this out there, I would not have thought that there was like a delay, but that this was a part of the story. I totally would have bought it. Whoever we are sort of interacting with on this website is so confused about the fact that it's April. They seem confused about the fact that they like put together this Christmas thing, but it's April. Why is it April all of a sudden? Like, they don't know where that time went. That's fascinating to me. The Welcome Home update focused a lot on Eddie, the mailman, Eddie Deer. His loneliness was a really big theme. There's a lot of videos about specifically that. You can go explore the website yourself. It's a wealth of information. We got a lot of video this time. Compared to previous updates, This Welcome Home update came with a lot of video footage and a very interesting narrative. If you had told me that the Christmas update was going to focus on Eddie, I simply would not have believed you. However, considering the fact that they seem to be suggesting that Frank Frankly and Eddie Deer are in a kind of relationship, and then they set up all that Frank stuff in the last update with the bugs, it does make sense. I also find it interesting that even though we are building on a story overall, we have moved away from Wally himself to a degree. Obviously, Wally is still the central character, but specifically with this Eddie installment, I don't get so much of like the story being told through Wally. It seems like we are in the perspective of Eddie Deer. And I also think that it's interesting that Eddie Deer is Eddie Deer and Wally Darling is Wally Darling, because it's like Deer and Darling. I just think that's kind of interesting personally. I won't speak too much more on that. I just wanted to say, like, Welcome Home Christmas update came out. With every project that's been going on this year that has really caught the internet's attention, Welcome Home being able to persist with as much influence as it has as a website, rather than a video game or having an analog horror series that's going on simultaneously on YouTube or something like that. I think that's unique and fun. And I'm really excited to see what the future holds, because I can't quite crack the code on this. I have thoughts, and I think it has a lot to do with the black ink and stuff like that seems to be infecting things, affecting people's memories. It's almost like the show never existed and like the false memories of the show are being implanted in people. However, we see these videos that suggest that the puppets are there and do exist in some plane. It's very interesting to me. So I'm very intrigued by Welcome Home and everything that it has to offer. So I'm really excited to see what they keep doing. Of course, the Welcome Home update was not the only thing that happened in April, and I don't know that it was the more popular thing that happened in April. That goes to Bendy and the Ink Machine. They released Bendy, The Secrets of the Machine on Steam, free to play. It was a cool, interactive experience. They were updating that game like hourly or something. It was like constantly. You went in here and you had this much to do, and then you would come back later in the day and there was more to do. It was very fascinating. And over time, you realized these were all teasers for potentially multiple future Bendy projects. And at the same time, it's its own little experience introducing us to the character Riley, who we seem to be playing as in this experience that we are supposed to be. It's like a time loop and we're supposed to be trying to get out of it. Very similar to previous installments of Bendy, where we seem to be in this sort of purgatory of sorts and trying to find our way out of it. But we play as Riley, who is a young artist who has this troubled past and applied to work for Drew Studios, got accepted, but then the things they were drawing were too dark. Drew and other people in the company were getting like really bad vibes from Riley and their work, so they were let go. Potentially that is going to lead into whatever happens in this next installment of Bendy and the Ink Machine. They were teasing other games too, but that is it for April. I also just wanted to announce that I am going to be a part of the Vortex Jungle Charity Stream that will be taking place between Friday, July 12th and Sunday, July 14th. If you want to know more, there's more to know in the description box. I'll have stuff linked down there. I've also announced it on my YouTube community page and on Twitter. We are raising money for the Rainforest Trust. Obviously, deforestation and climate change are really big issues facing our planet at this present time. And this goes beyond what you think as a person, right? This is something that can be observed right now. We're dealing with it. It's happening. And it's not just affecting us. It's affecting our wildlife. It's affecting animals who deserve to have a place to live, They are not the ones who industrialize the world. We are. So I feel like it is our personal responsibility to do everything that we can to fight deforestation, to create a more climate conscious planet as a whole. So I'd love it if you would join us. We're going to be playing a lot of different FNAF games, talking, all kinds of different things like that. It's like nearly a 72-hour long event and they're going nonstop. So trying to sit here and tell you everything that's going to happen would be a lot. but you can see what I'm going to be a part of on the schedule as it releases. So really, if you follow FNAF_Vortex, that's Vortex's Twitter account. That's a good place to go to get news about the stream. Please go do so. I'm not good at advertising. I'm doing my best, but there's a lot of other people who are going to be a part of it. You know, if you care to see me, that's fine, but really just tune in. And if you can't give monetarily, just being a part of the stream, that's important because you are boosting the visibility of the stream for other people so it can get in front of the eyes of people who would be able to donate. Just share the stream, tune in, be a part of it, do what you can. That's all I can really ask of you. Now, around April and May, we did get some FNAF news. I made a video about it, not to rehash everything that I said in that video, but we did get some news about a new series of FNAF books that were going to be produced that are interactive. But of course, all of that's in that video if you want to check that out. But I did want to mention it because you guys need to understand how much FNAF news and other indie horror news and stuff that like we've been getting this year, because it's been a lot, and we're not even at June yet. We're not even at the 10th anniversary stuff yet. And on top of the book news and things like that, we also got news about when the FNAF 2 movie is going to be released. Right now, the date is set for December 5th, 2025. I was so happy to hear that it wasn't coming out in 2024, not just because we already have so many other things to cover this year. It's nice to kind of spread things out and know that there's something coming next year too. But I was also glad just to know that they're not rushing these movies out. They really are taking their time on them, assuming that the second movie does as well as the first movie does and this project doesn't get completely dropped, or as long as Blumhouse doesn't make too many absolutely financially devastating movies, because they want to do that sometimes. I want to have a level of faith that Blumhouse kind of knows what they're doing, but the fact of the matter is that they produce some stinky movies sometimes. I'm not manifesting anything but greatness for these FNAF movies and that we get to see them all. It does seem like each one is getting their own individual moment and that they are really genuinely taking the story and everything else seriously. They're giving Jim Henson Company the time to make the props as good as they can possibly be, so I'm excited about it. Pretty cool stuff. But all of the FNAF stuff aside, there was something that was released in May that really got the internet stirred up, excited, and I'm glad. I'm hype about it too. And the creator, Unique Geese, is more than deserving of the praise. Unique Geese, you may know, they remastered Garten of Banban to make it like actually look like a game. And I will say Garten of Banban did also release a chapter in May of 2024, but it's not something that I'm interested in celebrating. So we're just not talking about it, but I did mention it. So you know that it happened, but that's all I'm going to say about it. I want to talk about Indigo Park. This game took the internet by storm. In my opinion, it may have just been my little corner of the internet, but this felt like such a fully realized demo, right? It's a chapter 1, but to me, it moved fast enough to call it a demo. The gameplay is good. The characters are fleshed out. Like, there's something here for people to really grasp onto. I love the idea that Rambly the raccoon isn't chasing us down or trying to be secretive. He's like super happy-go-lucky and talking to us. It reminds me more of KinitoPET, right? And that, I think, is the connection that's making me really excited about Indigo Park. He acts like he's trying to help you and like he wants to be your friend, and he seems to be an AI. And he has control over a lot of things going on throughout the park. He is a computer program, and I kind of love that. We're falling in love with this character, but it is still just a computer program. He is meant to be the perfect host of this park. He's trying to find out the things that you like so that you stay longer, etc., etc. Very similarly to KinitoPET, you download him onto the computer, he finds out more about you, he wants to become your friend, he wants to be your best friend. You know, Rambly the raccoon is designed to do the exact same thing for the park. He's designed to make you care about the park and want to stay there and connect with everything there. However, he seems to have some human emotions that like you wouldn't necessarily imagine being programmed into a character like Rambly. Specifically, he has that jealousy and ire towards Lloyd the Lion. It's hard to say, is that programmed in, or is this part of Rambly's sort of gaining a level of consciousness that he wasn't ever meant to achieve? We do see Rambly glitching out throughout the story, but it's hard to tell if the glitch is the real Rambly trying to come through, or if that's what's being tampered with, and like over time we're going to see Rambly being tampered with more, or if the way Rambley is right now is him getting our trust to get us to do something we're not supposed to do, which is also a thing in some of these other analog horror series. Obviously, Five Nights at Freddy's, Ruin, we're lured in by what we think is Gregory, but it's not really Gregory, right? Poppy Playtime, we have like Ollie and Poppy. I would not be shocked to discover that Ollie and Poppy are setting a huge trap for you, right? Would not surprise me in the least. Personally, I think the way that Kissy Missy gets left up there when Poppy is like taking us down feels like its own trap. Like, it feels like Kissy Missy got set up to get got. You know what I'm trying to say? Because I can't imagine that Poppy and we are like exceeding the weight limit and like that Kissy Missy has to take it by herself. I don't know. It's very just suspicious to me that Kissy Missy has to stay up there. Even if there's an in-game reason for like why she has to stay up there, the fact that it's her, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's just the way that I'm thinking about it. So, just to say, we in Indigo Park play as this kind of fanatic of Indigo Park. Our mom has a special connection. We used to come to there as a kid. And now our character is exploring abandoned buildings and things like that, and is choosing to go explore the abandoned Indigo Park. I really like that setup more than being an employee at the park. The story is there, and there's a level of mystery and intrigue that I really appreciate. I've seen a lot of really good theories about the game so far. I think it says a lot about your game if people are looking at your chapter 1 that does seem to be sort of a glorified demo. Like, you could call it like one step above a demo, I don't know, but I'm calling it a demo. That's what it felt like to me, right? It felt like a proof of concept. It felt like a teaser kind of thing, sucking you into this world. And if people are already taking that and happily theorizing about it, you've hooked people. And I think that's great. Which brings me to June. Before I get into the FNAF news, honestly, I'm saving that stuff to last because I'm so sure you've heard it all already. And it's not like you haven't heard this other stuff. But I just want you to understand how big this year has been for indie horror and Mascot horror specifically. Going right into June, something happened very similarly with this game, where it started as a game jam. They never really necessarily intended it to be a full-fledged game, but it seems like they released what they made in the game jam as like the demo, right, for this game. And people just loved it. People were happily theorizing over the demos before the full game was even released. I know I was super excited about it, and that is Amanda the Adventurer. What we got in June this month, we got a demo for Amanda the Adventurer 2. I gotta be so real. When they started teasing this on Twitter, I lost it. I loved Amanda the Adventurer. The puzzles were so fresh and new, and something that I'm sure that other games have done. Like, I'm sure that they have. And this is maybe just like the first time I've seen them. But for me, watching, the oven and putting different ingredients in the pie tin and putting that in and that creating different results, the different things you say to Amanda affecting what happens in the videotapes. It's also eerie and spooky and shrouded in mystery. The idea that this poor innocent girl has been targeted and sucked into like TV to like occupy the mind of a CGI character who potentially has connection to demons. I don't know. It's wild and wacky, and I'm so excited to see part 2 of this. The demo takes place in a library. I think it's so apt because we know that Kate, who was investigating this before Riley took over, she was a librarian. The inclusion of public access television being woven in with everything, like, it's so brilliant because there are a lot of, if you've never looked into it, like there's a lot of really weird stuff on public access TV. So incorporating that into this, I think, is so smart. I'm so excited about being able to explore this library, and we have this Amanda demon running around in the vents. All I can say is I played the demo. I was on stream, and I think that I was feeling the pressure to like solve the puzzle, because most of the people in the chat probably had already seen the puzzle be solved. I wasn't giving myself time to think. I was just like, you have to just know. Anyway, here's footage of me solving the puzzle, if you will. I thought I understood, but now I don't. Hold on. This is not how you're supposed to. 6, 3. Oh, gosh. I got it! 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 Yes! I learned nothing. Second try. And so yeah, eventually I did come to understand what the puzzle was trying to get me to understand. And if I had been less exploratory and focused, I think I would have solved it faster. But I was just looking at every little inane detail in the library because I was so fascinated with it. And it's a very well laid out, like it feels like you're in a library. Like, I'm not trying to be crazy, but it literally feels like you're in a library. But I digress. I could talk about Amanda the Adventure all day, but I won't, because we have the FNAF infamous tweet to go over. And of course, you've probably already heard about it. If it's your first time hearing about it, I'm shocked. There is a tweet breaking down what the FNAF 10-year anniversary is going to look like. It's going to be a whole week. It's 8 days, so really it's a week and a day. We're eating good in the neighborhood, okay, with FNAF. So Scott Games, FNAF_Scott Games, that's the Twitter handle if you want to go follow it. Here it is. This is what it is. And I have to just say, some of this stuff I'm really excited about. Some of this stuff I honestly could just I'm so happy for the fandom. You know what I mean? I do not dip into the fan game stuff very often. It's just the fact of the matter. But our day one, August 1st, is going to be My Pop Go's full game release. This is a really big deal for the community. I've seen a lot of people get really excited about it, and I am so happy for all of you. I'm really into FNAF. I really love that story. There's a lot of other indie horror stuff that I'm really into, but the fan game stuff has just never been my focus. It just hasn't been. I'm trying to think that if there are any fan games that really do interest me, what they are, and I think the Glitched Attraction is really the only one that comes to mind, quite honestly. And it came to my mind very quickly. I also really like Juniors. Juniors, I think, is really creative and interesting, and I like that one. And the one where they are like talk show hosts also, I think, is really interesting aesthetically. But I've never played it, you know? I think Juniors and the Glitched Attraction are the only two that I would ever find myself playing. Now, do I really play FNAF very often? No. Mostly because I just do not have the time in my life to commit to a lot of that stuff. Because again, I'm not good at it. No Tino shade to me, right? If I played a lot of it, certainly I would get better at it. The fan game stuff seems really exciting to a lot of people. And that, of course, moves on into day 2, August 2nd, the Joy Creation remake demo, another Fanverse initiative thing. There's no world. I might find myself playing My Pop Goes. There's no world where I'm playing Joy Creation. Sorry, it's not happening. I will not do it. It looks too scary. You can watch the footage of me playing Amanda the Adventurer 2 demo. I was utterly screaming. I had other people screaming because I screamed. They expected the jump scare, but because I screamed so loud, it scared them. I don't do well with those kinds of experiences. I'm very fascinated by the story and the lore and all that stuff, and I really am fascinated by people who can hold it together and who aren't as affected by jump scares as I am, because it's you'd think oh my gosh, get over it after a certain point. I don't know. I don't see myself ever not getting a little, and it just resets my concentration in a way that it makes it hard to get better, the way that I'm supposed to. So I might play My Pop Goes, I don't know, but there's no way I'm playing the Joy of Creation. But if you've not seen anything from that, it is spooky. The models are incredible. The way the world feels so real is absolutely mind-boggling to me. I'll watch other people play it, because I can look away when I get scared. I'm sorry this is more like a podcast feel-like thing, but I just didn't have time to script out a video this week. Well, that's not necessarily true. I had technically physical time, but my mind has been other places. So I'm sorry that this is just I feel like this is so scattered and silly, but I'm putting content out. You're welcome. I don't know what to say. Let's move on into August 3rd. The interactive novel, VIP, completely free. I think I'm going to be streaming. One of my little side dreams growing up, you have your big dreams, and then you also kind of as you go on in life, you kind of have other things. I know that this is not just a me thing, but being a voice actor would be such a fun thing to do. But another thing is I was oh, if I could get into reading audiobooks and that being my gig, that would be awesome. The official reader of the FNAF audiobooks, Kira, what's her last name? Kira Breed Risley. Jealous of her. It's her gig. She makes it so easy to keep listening to these stories. Like, even when I'm tired, I am paying attention. She's got me. I think she makes me like the stories more than when I was just reading them on my own. I have to be so real when I say that. Like, I also really like it because I can put her voice at 1.5 speed. What I'll do is I'll have the physical book in my hand and I'll be listening to Kira in the back, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm reading this book so fast. I feel so awesome. Anyway, that's my little side tangent about that, but I would love to read this book on stream with you guys because it's free. I don't think that would be an issue with copyright, but we're just gonna make a night of it or something. Like, or maybe multiple nights out of it. But I'm so excited to read that story. Giving us an entire book for free? That is crazy, and I'm so hype about it. Moving on to August 4th, the Steel Wool announcement. There has been discussion about whether or not this is going to be a DLC or like a brand new game. It would not be crazy if it were a prequel kind of situation that's like a Cassie story. I think a true little mini Cassie experience that kind of gives a little bit of background on her character would fill in so many gaps, and that would set us up for new game, whatever that would be, right? Because they've just released Help Wanted 2 flat mode, it would almost make more sense for them to be announcing a new game, unless they're going to say that, like, when the DLC for Help Wanted 2 comes out, it'll be on flat mode first day. Because in my opinion, it's like, okay, you just gave people the first part of Help Wanted 2 in flat mode, and then you're going to add content to the VR game that the flat mode people don't have. To me, that would be frustrating, right? Like, just as somebody who's like, okay, I didn't get to play it because I didn't have a VR system capable of playing it. And I also have like really bad motion sickness, so I don't even know if I would really be able to play Help Wanted or Help Wanted 2 on regular VR, even if I ever was able to. I would hope that if it's DLC, they're going to announce that it'll also come out on flat mode at the same time that it, you know, releases for VR. But that's the only thing that leads me to think that, like, maybe it is a new game, and maybe it's that carnival game they've been teasing, and it could, like, this is the thing, it's just an announcement, and that's the thing that I won't be able to, they could very easily just announce the most crumb of a trailer for a new game. You know what I mean? It could just be the tiniest little morsel. It doesn't have to be anything bigger than that. It could be pictures. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it could not even truly be a trailer. It could just be like, we're announcing and it's just a poster. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It could be anything. It could be merch. You know what I'm trying to say? It could be a lot of things. I know I'm saying, you know what I'm trying to say, a lot. My bad. I just think that the people who were saying that it's got to be DLC because of just like the train of things, I think that DLC could still come down the line and the announcement could still be for a new game. The fact that Carrot Cake was mentioned just to me, and the heavy featuring of Cassie in the interview that FNAF did with Steel Wool, with J-Top, I'm just like, I think we might be getting a little Cassie prequel. Other people have said the Cassie thing is going to be what the VIP story is about, the interactive novel, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I would like VIP to be about Gregory if it's about anybody from the newer games. However, if it's in the same kind of wave of like the week before and Return to the Pit, you'd think it'd be more related to a Fazbear Fright story or something that was happening early in the timeline. And I think that it would be really cool if it was about Crying Child. And I'm just saying that that could be VIP. Just saying that could be VIP. Just saying. Or it could be about Cassidy if Cassidy is still a part of the missing children's incident, or Charlie even. There's so many characters in the early part of the timeline that it really could be, because the other interactive novels that have been announced so far seem to be taking place or referencing events from the early parts of the FNAF timeline. I feel that that melds in together better with the other books that have already been announced. I think taking a giant leap all the way to Tales from the Pizzaplex and Steel Wool Studios and that kind of stuff, it feels like such a giant leap. I'm not saying it's impossible. It may not even be necessarily like in line with all these other ones. Objectively, a week before is called number 1 and Return to the Pit is called number 2, I believe. But either way, I've talked too long about that. Then, of course, August 5th, Scott Cawthon interview with Dawko 2.0, another interview between Dawko and Scott. I think that's simply going to be really fun. I'll probably do a reaction video to it. My plan is to film myself watching it and seeing if I have a whole lot to say. If I don't, then that might just end up being like a members only kind of thing that ends up on my channel. Rest assured, I will be giving my thoughts on the Scott Cawthon interview with Dawko no matter what. I just think it's such a big thing for the community whenever Scott Cawthon actually comes out and says stuff, even if it's not lore relevant or whatever. I think it'll just be fun to dissect. August 6th is the one that has barked the most like, huh, what is this gonna be? It's question mark, question mark, question mark, collab announcement. I had a similar thought as another creator, Rytoast, about the fact that this could just be merch. I think people would be fairly disappointed if it was merch. I wouldn't be. I'm a sucker. I'm truly a sucker. I think it's likely. Do I think it's the most likely thing? No, but I do think it is likely. I still think the most likely thing is the Fortnite collaboration. The people who play FNAF and the people who play Fortnite overlap enough to me that it's just kind of like a no-brainer. The only thing that gets me with that is it does say collab announcement, not release. And people were pointing to the fact that there's going to be an update to Fortnite the same day that this is announced. To me, it would just say release or something, you know? Like, that word would have to be throwing us off. At this point, I feel like Fortnite's gonna have to get on it, you know? Like, they're just gonna have to get on it because otherwise people are gonna be so mad. I don't think it would be called a collab if it was the Roblox game, but we don't know. I've also seen people say it's Dead by Daylight. It's super not. It's just super not, guys. It's just not. They're doing Castlevania right now. They're not going to impede Castlevania with Five Nights at Freddy's. Unless they're just announcing it and it's gonna come in the future, but it still seems weird to announce it this early. If we haven't guessed it already and it's not any of things, it's gonna come so out of left field that we're gonna be like, what? This fandom is pretty good at getting to the nitty gritty of these sorts of things. So honestly, I think if it's not Fortnite or the Roblox thing or merch, it's gonna be something absolutely out of this world that nobody could have ever for a million years guessed. You know what I mean? August 7th, 5 Laps at Freddy's by Click Team. The demo is going to be released. A Freddy racing game sounds so smart. I'm so excited. I think it's gonna be an easy win. There's so many funny little things you could do with the way that you inhibit your other racers and everything like that. I feel like Click Team has such an easy win here because I don't know how we're gonna be disappointed with this unless it just fully doesn't work. And I don't think that's going to happen. Honestly, I know it's just 5 Laps at Freddy's and it's not confirmed that it's a racing game. If it's not a racing game, what is it? A swim meet game? And then August 8th, of course, is the big thing. I've already made a video about my Into the Pit predictions. I think I might make another Into the Pit prediction video before it comes out. We'll see. July's gonna be a really busy month for me. A pixel art Freddy game just gets me excited. I love pixel art. It looks like a game that I'll actually be able to play. But it still looks like it's gonna be scary. It's probably the thing that most of us are most excited about. We've been theorizing a lot about like how much of it is really in the game universe and how much of it isn't. There's plenty of reason to believe that it is because it is coming out for the 10-year anniversary. But there's also precedent to say like Scott has released a lot of non-canon games himself over the year. And I know, we're not getting into the whole thing about canon, okay? I just mean like Fury's Rage is not literally what's taking place in the game world that we are experiencing in things like Security Breach. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Right, I think we can all agree on that. There may be hints to what's going on, and so either way, I think it's going to be important for us to pay attention to everything that we can with this new game, because it could still give us hints and it could still give us information, but the big question is like, is Oswald a character the same way Gregory is? And the same way Crying Child is? Is it bridging the gap? And like Oswald really is a character just as much as they are a player in this story. The implications of that are huge. And the agony ball pit of it all, that's a lot. Personally, I really like Fazbear Frights just being Goosebumps FNAF, where, you know, there's pieces of it that help us understand the things about the games, but that we're not literally supposed to be fitting all of these elements from the books into the game's world. That makes it really confusing for a lot of reasons. It makes the story really messy for no reason as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to go along with whatever, right? It's not always going to be what I want it to be. Because if it was, then the Mimic wouldn't exist, quite frankly, in the game world. I don't care what he does in the books, you know? This is the thing, is that I'm not going to say, like, well, my personal narrative doesn't include the Fazbear Frights book, so if they're proven to be in the games, like, really genuinely happening, I can't just deny that. You know, like, well, you know, nothing in my story, you know, my story stops making sense if that's the case. It's like, well, then it does, and we were wrong. Sorry. I personally don't think that that's what's going to end up being revealed. I think it's either going to be very clear that this game was made to celebrate FNAF, and there may be some lore bits in there, but it's not trying to tell us that Oswald exists the same way Gregory exists. I do have like a genuine theory about it, that you can watch that is more about like what that game would be trying to tell us, if anything. Anyway, I'll certainly be playing it on stream, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be one of my favorite FNAF games, quite honestly. This series continues to improve upon itself, and that's something you cannot say for a lot of them. And I'm not saying that like, oh, well, FNAF 1 was like total trash. It just continues to innovate. I'm shocked at how much FNAF has continued to innovate, and I'm shocked at how much it has been able to influence the rest of the gaming space in regards to mascot horror. I don't really know of a precursor to FNAF that did what FNAF did, at the very least, not one that took off and actually became popular in the zeitgeist. I will be watching videos that have nothing to do with the world of Five Nights at Freddy's. Hotel bar rescue, those kinds of videos, bar rescue videos, and suddenly there will be a reference to FNAF in that video. There was a Spider-Man comic available during Free Comic Book Day that was a FNAF ripoff. Like, not a ripoff, where they're in this sort of like not quite Chuck E. Cheese kind of place, and the animatronics like come to life and try to kill you. FNAF is prolific. I'm just so grateful to be here and be a tiny piece of everything that FNAF is. Scott Cawthon and Steel Wool and Scholastic and all of the authors of all of the different books, they are co-written, you know, it's not just Scott writing those stories, as well as everybody else who's, you know, worked on games over the years, the fan games, who kept the series going. There's a lot to love about this franchise. When you step all the way back, like everything else that I've talked about up to this point, you cannot deny the platform that Five Nights at Freddy's has been able to give other mascot horror properties. The influence is just obvious, and it's undeniable, and it's everywhere, and I think it's just like, it's worth saying like, wow, you know, it's worth just sitting back and looking at this. And I know that this is a longer video about kind of a lot of, it's all over the place, and it's just a lot of my rambling, but I have to say that this year has been so big for mascot horror, and I think that's worth noting. The revival of Bendy, the triumph of Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, the newcomer of Indigo Park, the second Amanda the Adventurer, another Welcome Home update, Shipwrecked and KinitoPET, That's Not My Neighbor, Walten Files is back. There's so much going on. I'm overwhelmed in a good way about it. I guess I should just wrap this video up. We're getting a lot of really good stuff this year. We've already got Help Wanted 2 flat mode. We've got a release date for the movie next year. I'm really excited. There's so much coming down the pipeline that's not just FNAF. I just want to highlight those things too. I hope that's okay. I don't know really how much editing is going to be done in this video because it is so very podcast style, and I don't have a whole lot of time to edit it. Basically, what I'm trying to say is if you're watching this, you made it to the end of this video, and that's crazy to me. I hope next week when I come back to you, I have a script, okay? Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like the video, subscribe to become a member of the nervous system, and leave your comments down in the thoughts below. You know, yeah, sure, whatever. You know where to leave your comments. It's not your first rodeo. If you would like to financially support the channel, I do offer $1 channel memberships. I try to make them as affordable as possible. You mainly get shoutouts on the video, and then I will also make posts and ask questions, do behind the scenes kind of updates. The main point of it is just that you want to financially support the channel. That's really what it is, and I try to offer what I can just so that you guys know that I appreciate your financial support. I just don't really feel like doing bigger tiers and like trying to manage all of that because I have a job and a lot of other stuff that I got to do in the world that I don't want to fall behind on that and end up disappointing people. So I'm offering a membership for as low as I could possibly offer a membership, and you get as much as I can give, right? As much as I feel comfortable or capable of giving, that's what you get for that. Those are the main perks. You might get some bonus videos, but I'm not trying to be like, well, oh, join my channel for bonus videos, because like, I don't know when they're going to be uploaded. That's just kind of the way that it is. I'm rambling a lot, and I am not Rambly Raccoon, so I ought to cut it out. Thank you for watching. Like I said, I stream usually on Wednesdays and Fridays. I'll be back next week, and if you can't wait, there are videos on the screen right now just for you. Okay, bye! Last time we could rewatch them. Are you telling me? Cheap. Cheap. Love that for me.